Fighting.
Welcome back, true believers. Welcome back, Geek Show fans. It's time for yet another excitingly depressing episode of
Dry Your Eyes.
The Last of Us Deep Dives, episode 3. Oh man, where do we start?
I'll start.
Okay.
If you'd have told me a few years ago that critics would be hailing one episode of a zombie show based on a video game
Yep.
as one of the finest hours of television ever produced,
Yeah.
I would have went, well, really?
I just want to tell The Last of Us and everybody involved with The Last of Us, yes, we've been saying for decades that there's never been a good video game adaptation. It doesn't mean you have to disprove us this hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't set the bar so high.
After that episode, I tweeted out, geez, Last of Us, why you got to go so hard?
Rebecca, you're not wrong, because I'm concerned about the rest of the season.
So
Because this was
man.
so damn good.
So my husband was watching it with me. He hasn't played the video game, and he's like, "Is this what the game is like?" And I'm like, "No, this is so much worse.
Yeah.
This is even worse." And the thing is this so phenomenal, so great. It definitely sobbed like a little baby. But there's a upcoming storyline in the game that did actually break me and made me stop playing for like a week and a half.
Oh.
And they haven't even done that yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're gonna do this with Bill and Frank. What are they gonna do with Henry and Sam?
Oof.
It just comes down to giving the right artists the right work.
Yeah.
Well, and what I have really enjoyed also is we'll talk more about like what actually happens in the episode, but the creators and writers have really put such an emphasis on love as a theme within the show, and just really highlighting that, which is not something that we've ever really seen in a zombie anything.
I mean, they tried to touch on it in Walking Dead, but they failed.
Yeah, but this every episode of The Last of Us, I mean, it's only been 3 episodes, but like there's been such an emphasis on love as a theme, and it's so nice to see.
I would even say maybe more so than love, but loss of love.
Yeah.
Like,
Because that's all we have. That's all we have left when we lose everything. That's
Exactly.
That's all
Yeah.
that we have that retains our humanity. And you
That's
see
the-
that with such a perfect libertarian poster boy as Bill,
yeah.
Yeah.
right?
That's-
and what makes him human again.
Yeah.
Is
Loss is the price we pay for love.
Or the fear of loss, even.
Yeah.
Like the fear of loss is such a big theme just in pop culture media anyway too. What's Anakin's whole deal? The fear of the loss of love,
Well,
right?
That's such Buddhism, right? Is the first tenet is that all life is suffering, and that the only reason why suffering is what life is because we're so afraid of losing things that we're afraid to actually live. And
There's Lee bringing it heavy.
Attachments.
attachment is what makes us suffer. If we can
I wasn't afraid until I met
Right.
you.
Yep.
My lovely George Cade. Thank you.
Man. All right. So, moving along.
All right. Okay.
So the episode opens up with a great, just memeable picture. 10 miles west of Boston.
Oh, and apparently people are mad about this.
Well, I don't know what Boston looks like, but I know it doesn't look like that. I was like, oh,
don't
Boston
know what
looks
it
a lot
looked
like
like 20 years
Montana.
Well, the thing because I knew Stephen King was like, had to stick up his butt about it or whatever.
He's Mr.
But
Northeast, you know.
Yeah, but I didn't really understand it until Kat, Jay's wife, tweeted, "Oh, we got mountains in Newton now."
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, "Oh, okay, now
No,
I
it's a thing.
understand."
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody calm down. There are no zombies either. Okay.
It was pretty funny. So
Who knows? Maybe earthquakes could have happened in 20 years. You know how mountains are formed? It's the pushing of plates together.
Hey,
Hell,
whoa!
you
I
could just
didn't
say
come
it-
here to learn.
You can just say it happened in 2020, and I'd be like, that tracks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
All
we
right.
open up with that, and Joel and Ellie have just escaped the capital area, and Joel is obviously mourning the loss of Tess, and You
and
get
Ellie.
a fantastic scene from Ellie.
Oh, I love that she's like, listen up, sad. Sorry for the swear. Just bleep. No, just bleep.
Dang it.
I'm sorry.
We have
Just
to go
bleep.
back and bleep it.
I'm sorry.
Jerk.
I'm not. And she's
You're on
like,
notice.
listen, this was not my fault. You chose to take me. So stop blaming me for
Yes.
something I had nothing to do with. And Joel's like, rabble.
Oh man, the cojones on that girl. That was awesome to see her stand
She
up
ain't got
like that
nothing
and
to
say it.
lose. She got tooed.
Fantastic. And then he basically says, okay, we're headed to Bill and Frank's. And along there, we get about a 10-minute segment of here's the 5-hour walk from where they were to Bill and Frank's. And we see some interesting remnants of the before 4 times and how society got to where they are right now.
I gotta tell you, I am a sucker for plane crash wreckage.
Yeah, as morbid as it sounds, I agree 100%.
It's so fascinating.
Fascinating.
Well, but my favorite part of all that though was Ellie and how have you been up in one of those?
You got to go in the sky.
You got to go in
Yeah.
the sky. I love that line. I
He's
also
like,
love.
oh, it was so irritating, like going through security, blah blah blah. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but you got to go in this.
You
I
got to
also
go in the
loved
sky.
at the end where she gets in the car and she doesn't know about seatbelts. I just love that.
She's like,
That-
you've
that
never
is-
been in a car
rocket ship.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Love
a
that.
spaceship.
It's like a
I just-
spaceship.
so cool.
What they did that was so amazing is like you start to see that paternal instinct kick in when he wants to go another way. He doesn't want her to go past the bodies. And I was like, oh, cool. We're going to see your standard before times montage of all the people being rounded up because we see that field where everybody was killed because the soldiers was like, well, there's no room in the QZ. We're just going to have to kill all these people. And
Well, and then
instead of
it's-
that being the transition to, oh, here's all the people being loaded up, which they did show, that was actually the transition to Bill's introduction, which was just perfect.
But Ellie asks a really good question. She's like, well, then why kill them? And then I really like that he's like, a dead person can't get infected. And I really, it's just a little moment, but I like the logic because it's terrible logic. But I mean, like,
Well,
it just is terrible. It just is what it is. Like, we're bombing cities, we're killing people because dead people can't get infected.
That goes next to my other favorite exchange in this episode, which is when Bill and Frank are fighting, and he says to Nick Offerman, "You think the government is Nazis?" And he goes, "They are Nazis." And he counters, "Well, they are now."
Well,
yeah.
now, but not back then.
Well, it's yeah,
Wow.
we like to think, right?
It's been Nazis all the way down.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so we get basically almost a full hour of the life of Bill and Frank. And it's just I don't think I've ever seen a 20-year passage of time better portrayed in such a short amount of screen time than
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. When I read the reviews that it's one of the best hours of television ever, I went,
Ever.
they're not wrong.
No.
No,
The first 15 minutes where it's Nick Offerman just going around town and being a survivalist. My
Yeah.
husband was like, "Oh, so they just filmed Nick Offerman for like a couple of days?"
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, they didn't have to tell him and instruct him on how to do any of this stuff. He already knows how
Yeah,
to
he
do
just
all
knows how
this.
to do it.
The other thing they did that was brilliant is my kid basically 4 minutes after Bill's introduced goes, yeah, this kind of person doesn't like gay people. It wouldn't like me, right? Because
She said that
see
about
this-
Nick Offerman.
Yeah, they said
About Bill?
basically this character doesn't like people like me, and he's got all the guns and all this other stuff. And they're like, as a gay person, this feels dangerous. This person feels dangerous in the apocalypse. And then they're just like, table turn.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
here's a sneaky agenda.
Yeah,
And Offerman.
in our woke gay story, ruining all the media, blah, blah, blah.
Well, down here's the thing: is that if you follow Nick Offerman on Twitter, he is slapping down all the homophobes.
Oh, sure
he
he
is
is.
just taking them to task. And also, I loved the bit where he was talking about how he got the part, where he said, "I handed the script to my wife, and I said I'm too busy to do this. I want to." He said, "But I got so much going on. I'm too busy." She read it and said, "No, you're going to Canada. You're going to do this."
yeah.
and it's going to be one of the best things you've ever done. So when Megan Mullally tells you to do anything,
Listen to your wives.
listen.
Just do it.
And
Don't question.
and it's just been so great to watch him going out and talking about this. And he said at first, I wasn't sure I was right for the part because I'm not gay. Maybe we should give this to an actor who is. And
Well,
the TV show creator said, no, we want you. And we'll cast someone else, that's gay. Well, your partner will also, in fact, be gay.
I think part of that is, I think that's partly why it worked so well for him, because he plays a character who had been closeting himself so hard that for all intents and purposes, even your kid, Lee, thought, oh, this guy's a threat to gay people.
Well, they did such a good job of throwing a couple curveballs at us. I mean, I forget that Murray Bartlett's Australian because he played such a convincing American.
Yeah.
And acting is sorcery to me, so I do get confused and scared, and I do shriek at the screen a lot. But
Magic demons.
Well, I mean, it's such a departure from White Lotus. And I
Oh, yeah.
recognize that's what acting is all about.
I had a couple of people say, "Oh, I'm going to watch White Lotus because of Murray Bartlett," and I'm like,
Nope. No,
okay,
I mean, watch
if
it
you
anyway,
want,
but
it's
it's
a very
not the
different
same.
character.
Yeah.
I mean,
A bunch of
watch
my
it
friends.
because he's incredible in it. He really is. But
Just
Yeah.
a very different character.
A bunch of
in
my
I mean,
White
friends.
Lotus.
just watch it to watch a dude motorboat another dude's ass.
Or drop a
And that's
deuce in a
not even
suitcase.
that's not even the
A deuce case.
spoiler alert.
So
what a
yeah, it's
great
been out
show.
for like 2 years.
I know.
That's
But
true.
I had a bunch of friends that were like, man, this is such a weird role for Ron Swanson. And I'm like, you guys have no idea. Like, do you
also
watch
he's-
anything besides Parks and Rec with Nick Offerman? He's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's been doing other
Yeah.
stuff like Devs. Isn't he like supposed
Devs
to be like
is
super
awesome.
good in Devs?
Yeah,
Well,
Devs is
and-
really cool.
And what's that crafting show he does with Amy Poehler?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's that
the
called?
man's got layers.
Yes.
Making It?
Making it,
what
I
it's
think, yeah.
something like that. So anyway, yeah, we get a full hour, and I mean, I don't want to go too much into detail about everything that happens in that hour because I don't want to start tearing up. And
Yeah.
The big here's the big takeaway from this hour of TV is they include a line that's taken from a play that's essentially like, this is not the gay tragedy where we all just die at the end. Like, never do we get to see a gay love story that spans decades.
Yeah, 20
Because-
years. Yeah.
Gay love stories are always so tragic, and somebody always dies so early. And the thing is, we can't have gay people happy in media. and
yeah.
and
So
this
what-
takes that concept and is like, no, gay people exist, and gay people have love lives as well. And how fun it is to see, because the director's a gay man, a gay middle-aged man, and in interviews about this episode in particular, so many people have said how lovely it is to see a lived life of a gay couple, because we just don't see that ever.
Yeah. The line that Bill says that you refer to is just, I mean, he says, this isn't the tragic suicide at the end of the play. He says, I'm old, I'm satisfied, and you were my purpose. And it's
There's
just like,
another line too that a knife right in your heart. I can't remember who said. I think it's Nick Offerman. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm older," and
it's
Murray
when
Bartlett says, "I like you older. It means that we're still here."
yeah, it's the strawberry scene.
Oh
Yeah, Strawberry Scene. Oh,
And he did the Ron Swanson giggle.
Yeah.
well, that's his. So I had something brought up to my attention. I wonder how busy their pop culture consultant is, because nothing after 2003 can exist in this show.
Yeah, they got to make it all up.
Like, no one can say, "Oh, that's cringe," because that would not have happened.
Right.
Oh, love it.
You
Yeah.
can't have a
But
you can't have a montage where somebody's like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna have this badass scene to single ladies."
Well, and
Yeah,
the other thing, the Earth went to hell in the year 2003, and gay marriage wasn't legalized
No.
yet.
Yeah.
So at the end of their lives, when Murray Bartlett is like, "We're gonna go get married,"
I thought we weren't going to go into it.
because it wasn't legal back in 2003, but now they never knew a world where it was.
This is all gay code.
These gays, they're trying to kill me.
Yeah,
Do you know these gays?
Oh my gosh. Speaking of White Lotus,
But now
I
back,
loved.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, now back to the game and the complaints that I've been seeing, because I'm one of the last people on Twitter still. The complaints I'm seeing is that never happened in the game, to which
Do you want me to
they
tell you
pointed
what
out.
That's the whole
what happens
Go
in
ahead.
the game?
Go
Like,
ahead.
this is so much worse.
Go ahead.
So in the game, you come up to Bill and he's all by himself and he's still a libertarian prepper man. And you go into town and you come across this house and there's a man who's hung himself in the house. And you're like, oh my God, who's this? And Bill's like, oh, that's my partner, Frank.
Yeah.
And because he tried to leave and got bitten and decided, well, I would rather die than be a mushroom. And in the game, you find, as Joel, you find Bill or Frank's suicide note. And it's addressed to Bill, and it says, I hated you ever since I met you. I never liked you, and I hated you every day of my life, and I'm glad you're not in it anymore. And then you have the option to give the note to Bill or not. And I, luckily, when I played, didn't give Bill the note.
Oh, good.
You didn't? Oh,
No.
okay.
I didn't give Bill the note either.
Because why would I want to ruin
Why
a
would you wanna
man?
Well, no,
Pour salt in
there's
that wound.
there's two types of suicide notes though. There's the suicide note where you do nothing but blame, and then there's the suicide note where you say, I hated you, and that gives them the anger to release you. So it may have been a bunch of
Well, now,
BS too.
but what happens if you do give him the note? Do we
Bill's
get a
like, Bill's
we get a
like,
confession?
oh, he's like, oh, and then crinkles the note and throws it on the ground.
But
but
what I love
there's-
is the disconnect from people who are saying that they weren't gay in the game.
They were totally.
They
There-
were.
there-
It's
there's a
inferred.
scene-
It's
there's a
inferred
scene- Okay. Well, I was going to
Well,
say there's a scene that infers it when Ellie stumbles upon a bunch of male nude magazines and the pages are stuck together.
But also,
totally not gay.
Bill says that was my partner.
And he says that
And-
was my
Yeah,
partner.
because
I
they work together on the force.
I interpreted
Right.
it as, oh, gay partner.
I mean, how? It's
but
pretty
He's gay.
It's loose. It's up to interpretation, depending on how aggressively straight you are, right?
I guess that's what it is, you know.
He's gay. I've got what they call gaydar.
Yeah.
So anyway,
It was just so beautiful.
just
and so
phenomenal.
I got a couple of notes about this.
Okay.
Some news stories about this, actually. The third episode that we are talking about of Last of Us delivered another week of ratings growth. This installment brought 6.4 million cross-platform viewers, up from 5.7 mil the previous week, and 4.7 mil for its January premiere. The uptick on Sunday came despite the episode debuting at the same time as the highly watched AFC Championship game on CBS. Also, unlike Kate Bush, Linda Ronstadt won't be seeing a dime.
Oh
of
no!
this.
She doesn't have the rights to that song anymore.
She didn't write it.
man.
Because
Was it that
because
one guy who wrote 70% of pop songs?
One
probably
Swedish fellow.
because Kate Bush, wrote the songs and owned her songs,
Yeah.
and so they had to go through her. Ronstadt never owned the master for a long, long time because her Capitol Records contract. Ronstadt's manager explained to Billboard. Let's see. Everyone who has seen this episode, let's see. Spotify tweeted that streams of Long, Long Time have jumped an incredible 4.9,000%. The truth is that the songwriter Gary White will be the only one getting a royalty check. Ronstadt,
Oh man!
yeah. But she told Billboard, she's not on social media or anything, but she told Billboard magazine, I still love the song, and I'm very glad that Gary will get a windfall. So
Oh, that's nice.
No hard feelings.
Women can't have nice things.
and there's a documentary about Linda Ronstadt that if this has raised your curiosity about Linda Ronstadt, it's out there and it's brilliant. So
Well, and I think speaking of the Linda Ronstadt connection in there, I think that might have been the first time in the series since the 20-year jump that you've seen Joel like something when she puts in the tape. And he's like, no, and then she turns it on. And he's like, oh wait, no, leave this on. It's Linda Ronstadt. This is really good. And it's like, okay, he does still find a little bit of joy in some
he
stuff.
can. He's slowly getting there, and I think it's because Ellie is bringing him out.
100% for sure.
It was so good. Anyway,
We gotta mention that it was Frank who came up with the radio code system.
Yeah, the
and
song system, yeah.
and how 80s means trouble. Maybe this is a bit of a stretch, I don't know. But the fact that 80s meaning trouble, Bill and Frank grew up in the 80s during the AIDS epidemic.
AIDS crisis, yes.
And so
Interesting.
that's the question is, did they select the 80s as trouble because of
The
AIDS
80s
crisis?
were not a good time for the gay community at all.
No.
Between I mean, the entire United States government
Yeah.
turned their back on the gay community and didn't do anything about AIDS until it started infecting people outside of the gay community. And then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we need to do something."
Oh,
about
dang,
this.
we better do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although the music that the gay community produced was incredible, though. I mean,
Right.
you got a lot of great stuff coming out of the 80s from the gay community, entertainment-wise. A great show.
I think
are we,
that's
are
all
we
we
good?
have to say. Yeah, that's
Go
I mean,
and watch
Oh,
it again.
I didn't reference the
I can't.
podcast once.
Hey,
Good
it's
for you.
true. Almost right till the very end.
I know I had to get it in there.
This episode for me is like the movie Logan. I absolutely love it. I don't know if I can ever watch it again though, because it makes me feel the feels, and I
Yep.
don't like that.
Yep.
So anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode 3 deep dive, and we will see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Writing.